What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with reactions to the classics, and today we got a top 10 Kenny Rogers songs brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. We could not do it without the patrons. We're much appreciative of them. Okay, I know Kenny Rogers quite well, and I have not listened to Kenny Rogers music, and well, a lot of these songs I haven't heard in almost 40 years, probably. So I'm looking forward to this, man. Dove in on the research, as I always do. I've talked about before on this channel, I grew up in a house that was not musical. My dad was not into music at all, and he's hardly ever home anyway. My mom was basically Neil Diamond and Barry Manilow. But there was also a heavy dose of Kenny Rogers in here. So, and I mean, if you grew up in the late 70s and early 80s, there's a heavy dose of Kenny Rogers for you wherever you look. So, a little bit about Kenny. Was an American singer and songwriter. He's inducted in the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2013. I found that fascinating because why was it all the way up in 2013? That's insane to me. He was particularly popular with country audiences, but also charted more than 120 hit singles across various genres, topping the country and pop album charts for more than 200 individual weeks in the U.S. alone. He sold more than 100 million records worldwide during his lifetime, making him one of the best-selling artists of all time. His fame and career spanned multiple genres: jazz, folk, pop, rock, and of course country. He remade his career as one of the most successful crossover artists of all time, and we'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. In the late 1950s, he began his recording career with the Houston-based group The Scholars, who first released The Poor Little Doggy. After some solo releases, including 1958's That Crazy Feeling, he joined a group with the jazz singer Bobby Doyle. In 1966, he became a member of a folk ensemble, the New Christie Minstrels, playing double bass and bass guitar as well as singing. In 1967, he and several members of that band, the New Christie Minstrels, left to form the group The First Edition, with whom he scored his first major hit, Just Dropped In parentheses, of course, To See What Condition My Condition Was In, a psychedelic rock song which peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. As he took an increased leadership role in the First Edition following the success of 1969's Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, the band gradually changed styles to more country feel. They broke up in 1975, 76-ish, and he embarked on a long and successful solo career. He was voted the favorite singer of all time in a 1986 poll by readers of both the USA Today and People magazine. 1986, favorite singer of all time. That's how big this guy was. He received numerous awards such as the AMAs, Grammys, ACMs, and CMAs, as well as a Lifetime Achievement Award for a career spanning 6 decades in 2003. He also had some acting roles in TV series, including the title roles in Kenny Rogers as the Gambler, which I'll talk about that more later. Spoiler alert. The McShane series for the NBC mystery movie, and the 1982 feature film Six Pack, which was released in theaters, and yes, I went and saw that. There's also a movie, A Coward of the County, as well. He was a co-founder of the restaurant chain Kenny Rogers Roasters in collaboration with former KFC CEO John Y. Brown Jr. Although they're closed in the U.S., they're still a fixture in Asia. I did not know that. And if you watch Seinfeld, which it's quite dated now as well, I love Seinfeld. It's Kenny Rogers episode, right? Neon sign. Need I say more? Okay, if you haven't been with us before, the music will not be in the video, but it'll be the Vimeo link below. So click on that and follow along with us. Let's jump into it. With number 10, Don't Fall in Love with the Dreamer with the great Kim Carnes from the Gideon album in 1980, his 9th studio album already. This guy was pumping out albums, I'm telling you. It was a top 5 hit in the US and Canada. It was the sole single release from this album, Gideon, which was written about a rogue cowboy named Gideon Tanner. In this song, Gideon is telling a woman he's no good for her and this is the last time they will be together. Kim actually wrote this song with her husband, David Ellingson, and they recorded a version of this in Spanish. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Doug. All right, Don't Fall in Love with the Dreamer with Kim Carnes on that duet. I have the lyrics always pulled up because even if you know the words to a song, when you're reading them sometimes, you process them better. But like I haven't heard this song since probably like 1982 or something. And I knew every bit of it because I've shared this before, but you know, if you're younger from my age, you know, you were younger back then, the radio was all you listened to. If you didn't have parents who listened to albums and stuff. So like these songs are ingrained in your head like nothing else, man. It's a great song. I mean, there's a song about, look, she's waiting for him and she thinks this is going to be the time he's going to stay and then he doesn't stay. He's going to break your heart every single time. Don't fall in love with the dreamer. Really well done. I think their voices blend together very nicely. It's not going to be the only duet on here. I'm not spoiling anything because the next song is a duet. We've Got Tonight with Sheena Easton from the We've Got Tonight album in 1983, his 14th studio album. So we had his 9th studio album in 80 and 14th in 83. I mean, this man is putting out some stuff. This was actually written by the great Bob Seger and was on his album Stranger in Town in 1978. It charted twice for Bob, went to 31 in 78. In 1983, Kenny recorded the song with Scottish pop star Sheena Easton. Both Rodgers and Easton were on the label of EMI America / Liberty Records, and their collaboration was at the suggestion of label chairman Larry Mazza, who hoped to restore Easton to chart ascendancy. Mazza was also the president of Capitol Records, the label released for the Bob Seger original, so he knew this. Rodgers stated, quote, "I like the idea of working with Sheena. I thought the contrast in styles, I'm so throaty and she's so trained and pure, would work really well." Rodgers himself phoned Easton to pitch their duet on December 23rd, 1982. They met up on Christmas Eve, so the next day, to rehearse the song with piano. 6 days later, going in the studio with a completed track going to radio 9 days later. I mean, we were humming here. We were getting stuff out. Number 1 hit on the Billboard Countries chart, reached number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 2 on the Adult Contemporary, top 30 in the UK. It was rebranded as a country and western song due to Kenny. This is not a country and western song, but it was honored by ASCAP as the most performed country song of 1983. With Seger personally acknowledged the honor by attending those awards. I like that, though. I thought that was cool. I'm sure Bob wasn't complaining, right? Songwriting royalties, pretty nice in there. There's a lot of controversy around this song if you dig into it, that Kenny and Sheena didn't get along and all this, but she kind of said that was garbage years later. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But sometimes that stuff gets started as true, and a lot of times it's just gossip. All right, We've Got Tonight. So Kenny has an interesting voice, right? It's not some sort of classically great voice, but it's just an interesting voice. It's a good voice, and it blends with different styles. Obviously, Kim Carnes has a very unique voice that blended there. Sheena, and we're going to have someone else in a little bit. You can probably guess what that is. His voice can blend with everybody. Sheena Easton was huge. So if you don't know who she is, I mean, some of us in the 80s had a crush on her, but she became the first and only recording artist in Billboard history to have a top 5 hit in each of the Billboard's primary singles charts: the pop, adult contemporary, country, R&B, and dance. So, I mean, she was big. And this song worked well. You know, I mean, I don't tell you what the lyrics are about. It's pretty obvious. It's obvious from the song title, but good choice for number 9. And next up at number 8, also from the We've Got Tonight album in 1983, it's Scarlet Fever, written by Mike Deckel, 3rd single from the album, 94 on the Hot 100, but 5 on the country chart. I don't know this song. There's one other song that I'm not sure if I know or not. All the rest of these I know greatly, but I do not know this song unless I hear it and go, yeah, I do. But I doubt it because I wasn't listening to country music. I was listening to pop or rock radio. So Scarlet Fever, very catchy, very good. About a dancer. What kind of dancer? I don't know. A dancer, though. Kenny had caught Scarlet Fever, thought she was 25. She was only 16, but made her in love with him. Made him in love with her, right? Well, when she locked eyes with him, he'd dream about her. But then one day, got tears in his eyes because he drove by and saw that she wasn't there anymore. She went to make a life for herself, but her name was Scarlet, so Scarlet Fever. Nice little play on words. Next up at number 7, we have a song that was just, I cannot overemphasize to you how massive this song was during the time. We got Islands in the Stream with Dolly Parton from the Eyes That See in the Dark album in 1983, the 15th studio album, written by the Bee Gees, who had originally written the track for Marvin Gaye or Diana Ross. That's a whole nother story. They said 2 different things. As an R&B number, later recorded themselves in that style. Lead single, number 1 in the U.S. In 2005, the song topped Country Music Television's poll of the best country duets of all time. In 2024, Rolling Stone ranked the song at 104 on its 200 greatest country songs of all time rankings. And on the all-time Billboard chart, so I think that's 1959 to 2018, if memory serves me right, the last time they did the all-time rankings. The song's number 238. If you make that list of 500, obviously you can deduce, like, it's incredible. Number 238. But yeah, this song was everywhere. Islands in the Stream. Just like I said, a gigantic song. Bee Gees wrote it, as I mentioned, because they were basically blacklisted, for lack of a better word, after the disco era. Like, they were held responsible for it almost. It's insane because they were great beforehand. great afterwards. So they just started writing songs for other people, man. So, yeah, I mean, and Kenny and Dolly benefited from this. Next up at number 6, She Believes in Me. From the Gambler album in 1978, his 6th studio album. Second single, written by American singer-songwriter Steve Gibb. Not to be confused with Steve Gibb, the son of Barry Gibb, who of course was a contributor to Islands in the Stream. Number 1 on the country charts, 5 on the Hot 100, 42 in UK. She Believes in Me, great song, really good songwriting on this song. You know, he's torn between his love, his girl, and his music, and she's faithful and gets through the music, right? And he tells her one day he's going to change the world with this song, but he hasn't done it yet. But she still believes in him, so he keeps trying. But, you know, it's starting to place a toll on their relationship. But he's, you know, it's that thing. He saw his guitar in the corner, and it's her or the guitar. He can't reconcile his two loves, but she's still there. But I thought a really good vocal performance from Kenny, you know, all the way back in 1978 before he became huge. All right, next up at number 5. The other song I don't know if I know or not. Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, from the album of the same name in 1969 by Kenny Rogers in the first edition. 4th studio album, first one to have Kenny separated. They were the first edition. Now they're Kenny Rogers in the first edition. The song has quite the history. Written by Mel Tillis about a paralyzed veteran who lies helplessly as his wife paints up to go out for the evening without him. He believes that she is going in search of a lover. As he hears the door slam behind her, he claims that he would murder her if he could move to get his gun, and pleads for her to reconsider. A line in the song about a crazy Asian war in the time of the song's release led to the assumption the song was about a veteran of the Vietnam War, though this was never stated in the lyrics. However, Mel Tillis, the songwriter, stated that the song was about a veteran of World War II. It's first recorded by Waylon Jennings all the way back in 1966. Johnny Darnell reached number 9 on the country charts in 1967. Kenny Rogers' first edition enjoyed success with the hits Just Dropped In. I mentioned that earlier, to see what my condition was in. And But You Know I Love You. And Rogers wanted to take his group more into a country music direction in 1969. They recorded their version of the song in a single take in June of 68, with obviously Kenny singing the lead. It became an international hit for them, reaching 2 in the UK, staying in the top 10 for 12 weeks. So in the US, it reached number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 and 39 on the country charts. Maybe I'll know it when I hear it, but this is the other one I have questioned. Or Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town. Fantastic percussion that just drives this song. I have never heard this song, but it was fantastic. The percussion just drives. It's obviously about what I already said at the beginning. I don't know if you can get away with writing this song now, but who cares? Like, sometimes I wish you could just write what you want and everybody can take it however they want, but that's a whole nother discussion. But really good choice for number 5. Except for number 4 song you used to love, Coward of the County, from the Kenny album 1979, his 8th studio album. Written by Roger Bowen and Billy Ed Wheeler, the second single became a major crossover hit, topping the Billboard country charts and reaching number 3 on the Hot 100. And that just didn't happen back then, by the way. You know, Kenny's getting this crossover. People were not doing that then. It's a top 10 hit in numerous other countries worldwide, topping the chart in Canada, the UK, and Ireland, where it remained at number 1 for 6 weeks. The narrator sings about his ward and nephew, Tommy, widely considered a coward. Tommy's non-violent attitude was influenced by his father, who had died in prison when Tommy was 10 years old. During Tommy's last visit to his father from his deathbed, Tommy's father pleaded with him to avoid the same mistakes that he had made. Promise me, son, not to do the things I've done. Telling him that turning the other cheek is not a sign of weakness, and advising him, son, you don't have to fight to be a man. Yes, I'm sort of singing it like he does. I haven't heard this song in forever. Years later, Tommy's in a relationship with a woman named Becky who loves and accepts him. One day while Tommy is at work, the 3 Gatlin brothers sexually assault Becky. When he returns home and finds Becky crying, he must choose between defending her honor or upholding his father's plea to walk away from trouble when he can. When Tommy enters the ballroom, the Gatlins laugh at him, even more so when he seemingly turns to walk out. But to their surprise, Tommy locks the door, then fights all 3 Gatlin boys, unleashing 20 years of crawling that was bottled up inside of him, knocking each to the floor. He hopes that his father understands that sometimes you got to fight when you're a man. This is where this was fascinating. Oh, by the way, there's a 95-minute film, which I talked about. Kenny plays Uncle Matthew in that film. I think Bruce Boxlinger, who was on a lot of stuff in the 80s, really good actor, was in this TV series Scarecrow and Mrs. King as well, but a really good actor. He was in that. But so the Gatling brothers, and there's 3 of them. There's a Gatling brothers band, right? Larry Gatlin and his brothers were very famous in the 70s, and maybe a little bit into the 80s. Well, eventually it came out that the songwriter, what's his name again? Roger Bowen, that he wrote this song about them. The Gatlin brothers was a jab at them. Larry Gatlin claimed in an interview on the Adam Carolla show that the song's co-writer Roger Bowen held a personal grudge against him for unknown reasons. Gatlin stated that when Bowen won Song of the Year for Lucille at the 1977 CMA Awards, Gatlin approached Bowen to congratulate him. But Bowen said, "F you, Gatlin." An exchange of harsh words were followed. Gatlin claimed that the incident led to the inclusion of his name in the lyrics for Coward of the County. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a great story, man. All right, let's go. Coward of the County. I think any man, I mean, I understand a woman too, but any man, because I'm a man, so I can speak from the man's point of view, would feel just like Tommy does, right? Turned his other cheek, didn't get in a bunch of needless fighting, probably took a lot of garbage over it. And then the Gatlin brothers raped his girl, and that was that. Tommy had enough, and he let them all fall. And that's the way it would be in this house if somebody touched my wife or my daughter. I'm a God-fearing man, believe in the letter of the law, but I'll take care of that, and they can pick up whatever's left. So, yeah, song's great, man. Song's great. The way Kenny delivers it, the story itself, it's just fantastic. Next up, we have Lucille from the Kenny Rogers album in 1977, written by Roger Bowen and Hal Bynum, second and final single from the album. It's about a man in a bar who meets a woman who left her husband. It became Kenny's first major hit as a solo artist after leaving the first edition the previous year. An international hit, it reached number 1 on the Billboard Country Singles Charts, number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Kenny was all over that Hot 100, man. Overseas, it reached the top of the UK Singles Chart in June of 77, the first of Rogers' 2 number 1 singles there. Nominated for a Grammy for Best Country Song, and he won the Grammy Award for Best Male Country Vocal Performance in 1978. All right, Lucille, a sad tale. Protagonist is talking about how he meets this woman. She'd taken her ring off at the bar, told this guy she basically tried, but then the guy looks over, and he looked over and saw a guy that looked out of place in the bar, and the guy comes over and sits on the other side of Lucille, and said this guy had callus on his hands, was big as a mountain, and they thought he was dead for a second. But the guy was like pleading his case to her. It's the chorus, right? You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille, with 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I knew it was a crop, but I couldn't remember. But so the guy doesn't go after him. The guy leaves. But our protagonist, like the husband leaves, but our protagonist feels bad for this guy, so he can't even leave the bar with this woman because it just keeps playing in his head like what she did to this guy. So a really well crafted song of a man being scorned and pushed aside, put it in kind of a unique way. Really, really well done. All right, next up we have Lady. Written by the great Lionel Richie, became the first record of the 1980s to chart on all 4 Billboard singles charts, the country, the Hot 100, the adult contemporary, and hot soul singles. It is listed at number 60 on Billboard's Hot 100 all-time top song. So remember earlier, I think it was Islands in the Stream was like 238. 60th biggest song of all time. I can't stress that enough. His only solo number 1 on the Hot 100, remember Islands in the Stream was the other one, but of course it's a duet. Kenny once told in an interview, the idea was that Lionel would come from R&B and I'd come from country and we'd meet somewhere in pop. It was so successful that Lionel has said, I have an estate that Lady bought. Originally he wanted the song for himself, but his lawyer set him straight, telling him, if you give it to Kenny, it will be bigger than you ever thought. He was right. The success also, though, boosted Lionel's career. The production work on the song was his first outside the Commodores and foreshadows his success as a solo actor in the 1980s. I've also done a Lionel Richie Top 10 for Doug that is fantastic. Check that out after this. Rogers was also a featured vocalist on We Are the World, co-written by Richie. Richie performed Lady himself on his 1998 album Time, and he and Rogers performed the song as a duet on Richie's 2012 release, Tuskegee. Richie had originally pitched the song to the Commodores, and they turned it down. And this was obviously the biggest, well, it's not obvious, but it was the biggest selling hit for Kenny in his solo career. When asked about his personal favorite song during an October 1986 appearance on the Phil Donahue Show, like Phil Donahue was the guy for morning talk shows. He was the godfather, like he was the guy. So Kenny responded that Lady is head and shoulders above almost all the songs in the world. High praise. Let's go. The vocal performance on that song is extraordinary. It really is. I mean, Kenny just pushes his limit. Like, it's great. I would love to have heard Lionel Richie. Like, I can totally hear him singing this song. In like 1983, I would have loved to have heard. I mean, there's times where Kenny almost sounds like Lionel in just little parts when he dials it back. Like, this song is fantastic. It's a gorgeous song. Lionel Richie could write songs and Kenny could sing them. Just a perfect combination, man. Great choice for number 2. All right, we're to number 1. And look, when you have as many iconic songs as Kenny Rogers, like this whole list has been fantastic. I mean, picking my favorites is going to be nearly impossible. And you can make an argument for almost any song in here as the top song, but I think Doug got this right. Number one, The Gambler, from the Gambler album in 1978, his sixth studio album. Written by Don Schlitz in August 1976 when he was 23 years old. It took 2 years of shopping the song around Nashville before Bobby Bare recorded on his album Bare at the urging of Shel Silverstein. Bare's version did not catch on. It's never released as a single. So Don Schlitz, the songwriter, recorded himself, but that didn't go any higher than number 65 on the country charts. Other musicians took notice and recorded the song in 1978, including Johnny Cash, who put it on his album Gone Girl, which I didn't know, and I'm going to go listen to that after this. It was Rogers' who made the song a mainstream success. His version went to number 1 on the country charts and 16 on the rock charts, won him a Grammy Award for Best Country Male Vocal Performance in 1980. Rogers is accompanied on the recording by the vocal group The Jordanaires, okay, Elvis, on the track. It inspired a TV series loosely inspired by the song and set in the Old West, starting with Kenny Rogers as a Gambler in 1980. I've seen that, but there's 5 of them. The last one was Playing for Keeps, Gambler 5 in 1994. So Kenny made that work for him. All right, number 1 on Doug's top 10, Kenny. Go listen to how Cash sings it, but the way Kenny sings, like he understood how to tell a story, right? You saw it in the Coward of the County. I mean, I realize every song's a story, but you know what I'm saying? It's different. These Coward of the County, this in particular, are 2 epic, like storytelling songs. And not everybody can do that. You got to do it in a certain way. You got to make me hang on every line to see what's going to happen next in the story, but still make it sound pretty good. And he's a master at doing that. And I like the songwriting on this. I know he didn't write it, but we get 3 verses before we get that chorus because we're unfolding the story. So basically, Kenny is the protagonist. He's down on his luck. He's playing cards with this guy, and this guy says, I made a life, a living in my life of reading people's faces. I kind of tell you're down on your luck. I'll give you some advice. Give me that whiskey and a little bit of your cigarette. And he gives him the advice, and then this dude dies. You got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, when to run. You got to read the situation and read it correctly, man, to get far in life. But it's an epic song. It was an epic song in the late 70s. It's an epic song when I'm recording this in 2024. Now we get to my favorite tracks. A lot of times Doug's lists are hard for me to get to my favorite tracks because Doug and I are of a similar age group. And so these songs are reminiscent, like they hit me, man. This really hits me because my mom liked him so much. I heard these songs so often, like spun on the old vinyl. And then I heard them on the radio so often. The older ones I heard on the vinyl more, the newer ones, the duets and stuff I heard on the radio. But, I'm just going to make this easy. Like they all could be my favorites, like seriously. But I'm going to go with my faves were the top 6. She Believes in Me, Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, Coward of the County, Lucille, Lady, and The Gambler. My favorite probably is The Gambler. Second favorite is probably Coward of the County because I love the storytelling there. But this is a fantastic list. It's a fantastic list. I mean, I'm so glad that Doug brought this. I hadn't thought about Kenny Rogers in decades. Probably underrated as time goes on. I think because probably why he got in the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2013, right? So late because I think the country people kind of felt like they were sold out. How people get protective of their genres. That he had all these pop hits and then, the pop side, he's still more country. And it just kind of leaves you out here in no man's land. And people forget this guy sold 100 million records. I'm like, you heard me. These songs are so huge that people don't realize in retrospect how big Kenny Rogers was. But I mentioned Lionel Richie's top 10 that Doug brought me months ago. Same thing with Lionel. Lionel was the second biggest artist of the 80s behind Michael Jackson for a number of the 80s. But everyone now just knows him as a judge on American Idol. It's kind of crazy. But thank you to Doug for bringing this. Let me know what you thought of this list down below. Be kind, boys and girls. And what other songs you'd include on here or what your top 5 or top 10 would be. And until next time, guys, I will see you.